People differ in terms of whether they put on high heels or low heeled shoes. You getting me? People differ in terms of whether they break their eggs at the end or in the middle. See how bizarre it is. You must have been talking about Kenya. Those are the differences we have politically. Who breaks the egg how? Is it in the middle or at the end? Who is walking around in high heels? So what I'm saying is that our differences are very petty, parochial, and vain. And that's why we are unable to re-engineer this society. So we are left to say, no, we want just the least bad. The least bad, where does it take you? It doesn't take you anywhere. So unless we overcome this very medieval, retrogressive society that Swift is talking about, I'm afraid the next elections will not be any different from the past elections. And William Ruto, if push comes to shove, he will steal those elections and wants to see whether he will go to the streets to protest that elections have been stolen from Matiang'i or Rigathi or Kalonzo. You want to see that. Which Kenyan would be foolish enough to put their life on the line for such cynical characters like him? You want to test that. That you're on the streets protesting haki yetu, haki yangu. Haki yetu, haki yangu in protest for Matiang'i, for Rigathi, for Kalonzo, for Mother Karua. Oh my goodness. It can't work. I learned, Abdi.
Thank you, Westin. Hang on there. We'll still get back to you. I'll bring in Chacha. Dr. Milton, the mic is yours for the opening statement. Thank you. And then we go back to Dr. Kimani and Anthony. And we give the Chacha the opportunity to respond. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abdi. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to be here. And I begin by saluting everybody that believes in the revolution and the fact that Kenya requires a renaissance, and that all of us have a duty to agitate and defend a Kenya that is progressive, that is socially just, and one that is governed in accordance with the aspirations of the Constitution Kenya people have enacted for themselves. Now, I want to make my opening statement, and I will design my remarks in three parts. Number one is to give my summary of what the state of the nation is, and this is a broken record in terms of how everybody has characterized what our country is like at this point in time. So one, the state of the nation is broken. The state of the nation is awash with examples of what doesn't work for the people, by the people. The state of the nation is such that we have given the privilege and authority to lead and exercise power on our behalf to people who stand for nothing, don't believe in anything that we do as a people, and who do not subscribe in any way, form, or shape to the aspirations of the Kenyan people as they have enacted for themselves under the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And you just don't look, I mean, if you look around yourself, you would see so many examples of what we are saying. We have a head of state who lies with a straight face, speaks from both sides of his mouth, and now has the ability to engage and even sit down with people who died years ago. And that has become our signature face. It has become so transactional as a people that we have a legislature that is supposed to speak on behalf of the people, that is gatekeeping for the executive they are supposed to check. We have a people who are supposed to exercise, to represent the people, to oversight the executive, who are now singing from the choral book that has been written by the executive. And we have people who will not care about what the people are going through, but they want to tell us that there is no difference between executive authority and legislative power or oversight authority on behalf of the people. They want to have their cake and eat it. They want to implement projects and still pretend to be oversighting and doing legislative work. You have a society where we have a people that have been blackmailed and been handed the card which they have used to look at their oppressors with the Stockholm syndrome, where they're becoming sympathetic to those who are oppressing them and thinking that it is a mistake to demand for better from these people. We have a country where the citizen is always being blackmailed to think that their problems are inherent, that their problems are because they are the problem instead of those that are in leadership, where the people are not motivated, they're not incentivized, they're not receiving services for the taxes they pay. And we have a people that have resigned to fate and they no longer believe in themselves just because they have been put in that constant poverty cycle. And anything they receive from those in authority exercising their power on their behalf are stealing from them, but the people cannot rise up and say anything. I think enough said. We know the problem. I do not want to go into the details of who is responsible for what problems we have as a country or what challenges we face. I would move on to the second part of my presentation and speak about then what? Because the then what question is where I think we are getting confused, we are getting lost, and this is where we are being thrown into a spin because we have given these people a lot of power and a lot of money, and they are using that to blackmail us and to confuse us not to take action. Number one, how do we then deal with these people? We must, and I have said this, we must make it impossible for these people to continue with the way of doing things. We must say enough is more than enough. How do we do that? I want us to look at our glass as half full, even though it is difficult to do so. And we can still use, even a broken clock is right twice a day. We need to look at it and tell ourselves, what glimmer of hope do we have? Number one, let us make it impossible for example, the IEBC that we are being told that is now been is going to be a matter. No, it's no longer about whether these people will be vetted and approved. It is just a question of how they are going to sing praises of these people, and they will tell us this is the best IEBC that happened. We must now substantively move on and ask, because the Constitution empowers we, the people, to do so. We need to demand, number one, that we are not going to allow the people to continue this oppressive nature, because we are being told if you stop the electoral cycle from going on, then it means you don't want to exercise your power. We must stop doing things for the sake of it and say we are not going to do it. Everything needs to be brought to a standstill. And I've spoken about this before. We must be able to tell our people that no, we are not going to take this anymore. When the president comes up and lies, and people are supposed to be okay with it, we shouldn't be okay with that. We want to start taking action. And I keep saying this. I have said it and I'm saying it. When, for example, we wanted to put an end to the monkey business and the theft that was happening at Football Kenya Federation, we brought everything to a standstill. And we were being told, what is your interest about this? When everything was brought to a halt, and we said, until you do the right thing, we are not going to accept it, people got stranded. And I stood in court and I told the courts, look, I mean, we're not going to be blackmailed and to allow people to continue abusing their power and to continue oppressing us. And then in the meantime, nothing is going on. This sort of blackmail, make believe, and abracadabra business has to stop. So what do? Let us use the courts. The courts, we still have power. We still have a few good people in those courts. Let us swarm them with all these applications where we say, number one, for example, how did you come down to that list of 7 or is it 11 people that you're telling us are the best suitable to be appointed to the IEBC? First of all, we need full disclosure pursuant to Articles 33, 34, and 35 of the Constitution. We need full disclosure. What were the presentations about the character of these people that were made? That is public information. It should be known. How are these people graded? What are the minutes of this selection panel that finally came up, that narrowed down from 3,000 people to this number of people? This is information that should be in the public domain, because we have for way too long been deceived into thinking that people have good intentions, but they are not having those good intentions. They are gatekeeping for those who are oppressing us. And let us refuse. Let our people refuse to be drawn into this idea of saying, oh, June 25th happened. People wanted to bring the country down. There was a coup being designed. Come on. So what? You're self-preserving by telling us about the coups. Let us call a spade and a sin for what it is. And good people, please, let us come out. Let us not even, we don't even need to go out and make a lot of noise. We can make noise here, and that noise will be heard. For example, why are we being told about a Kim's kit, where we are spending billions in procurement when people can vote using their phones? If people are able to transact on their phones billions of money every day, why can't we use that technology in our voting system? So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that as I move on to the next part of my presentation, is that let us bring everything to a halt. These politicians are plotting against the people. There is nothing wrong with the people plotting against these people, because the Constitution and the law empowers the people to plot how they will be better governed and how their interests will best be served. We must go back to the days before June 25th, when the whole country was mobilized and everything came to a halt. Let us refuse to be blackmailed. Let us be able to go back and say, we are going to deplatform you. You're not coming to address us. You're not coming to, the Subarus must be stopped. You're not coming to our funerals of our loved ones to tell us what to do. And we are not going to be sympathetic to your loss when you're not sympathetic to the loss of public lives in the name of individual citizens being killed as they agitate for their rights. That is what we need to begin to demand. And finally, as I learned, good people, time is ripe. This is the moment where we say that this idea we were given, and I tweeted about this update. I said, this lie that we were given, that academic qualifications are the best credentials for leadership, we have now evidence that that does not work. We must begin to say, and we must demand. Now we know that a PhD holder is not a measure of the best presidency that we can have. Now we know that CEOs from blue chip companies who have come in and lied to us that they would make the best governors, they would make the best CSs. Now we know that that doesn't work. This lie we were told, that going to school and parading very good looking grades does not yield results when it comes to public service and the leadership that is in keeping with the aspirations of the Kenyan people. Aspiration is a very deliberate word the Kenyan people enacted for themselves because aspiring is looking up to great standards than ordinary. So we now must be able to tell ourselves if there is any change that we need, if there is any public participation that must happen as a matter of urgency in supersonic speed, it is not about the CDF. It has to be about how the credentials for those we elect and those we appoint into public office is as guided and defined under the Constitution. And we have Article 10 of the Constitution, we have Articles 73 and 75 of the Constitution, and we have Article 232. These are the definitions of what we need from our people who are going to lead us and guide us as a people. And if you fall short of that, we have no business dealing with you. We must be able to send you home. Don't come into office and then treat us as though we begged you to come. And now you're telling us that we need to have, you cannot review salaries downward. Now we want to, come on. You look for a job, you take it as per the terms of the employer. The employer is the Kenyan people. Don't come and tell us that you must be paid a six-figure salary for you to serve. No, we are telling you, you take it, you take what we offer, or if you don't want it, please take a walk. It is the Kenyan people's way or the highway. That is what is going to help our country. But the most important, as I finish in conclusion, is that we must bring everything to a standstill. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Milton. We'll cycle back to you as we go to who was the next speaker? Hillary, Dr. Kimani, and then Anthony. And then there is a message for Westin. Someone tells you the University of Buffalo is not an Ivy school. It is a research university and a member of State of New York University. So the professor is not in an Ivy school. Thank you for that comment, whoever it is. Over to you, Dr. Kimani.
Thank you so much, Abdi, and I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Loud and clear, go ahead.
Greetings. I want to appreciate the opportunity. I have had quite a conversation, especially the last speaker, Dr. Milton. That's commendable. So I want to talk about the topic of today, the state of the nation and IEBC, and I will start with the state of the nation and maybe some of the elements that have been touched upon by many speakers, including Ronyo there before, and those that have spoken before. Kenya is in pains, and I think everybody knows that economically. Unfortunately, we allowed some conmen in the political arena to destroy our country and destroyed it economically. And therefore, I believe we do not now need political solutions to solve these economical problems. We need economic solutions to sort our problem because it has now touched on each and every element of Kenyan population, wherever they are. We are talking about our education. Everybody is crying loud. The education system, nobody understands what it is. It is not what we're supposed to do. And I ask myself, is whatever we are doing in our education system supposed to serve the needs of the people of Kenya today and into the future? We shall have a generation that is so confused and that will make a big mess than we are in today. So that's a thing that we need to do. So the education is in the platform today. That's food for thought. What is it supposed to achieve and for whom? And how sustainable is that into the future? How can we make it better? We are talking about health. You all know what is happening in the health sector. People are dying and dying because of promises that will never come to fruition. What is that we need to do? And all these things that I'm saying, because everybody has done everything possible in their positions to make sure that we do not thrive economically. So we all need to do that. And I think if today we are struggling because of our economic status, what will happen to the generations that are coming after us? We therefore have got some assignment. We all have a collective responsibility to think of how do we now therefore secure the future of the generations that are going to come after us. I have seen people, urging us that we need to come up with the National Sovereign Wealth Fund. Other countries have done so. And those countries that have done so are so well prepared to deal with circumstances and challenges that we, Kenya today, can never do it. But do we have the potential to do it? Do we have the muscles to do it? Yes, we do. But do we have the political willpower to do that? No, it's not there. Therefore, this is a clarion call that we all here must agree. And I think, this is the conversion or the converted group, that there has to be a change. We cannot continue doing things the way we have done them and expecting different results. No, we must have devoted servants, not people in offices calling themselves bosses that are doing the opposite of what's supposed to be done in a country beautiful as Kenya. I could go on and on talking about the state of the nation, but we all agree it is not well. It is not well. And that one drives me to the next agenda, that is about the IEBC. I know I might be very unfair and unpopular but let me put this one out there. Currently there are people who have no representation, whether it is in the county assemblies or in the national assembly as well, or maybe in the Senate, following maybe natural causes that has led to the leadership of those places going away. And therefore, it is therefore very, very important, and to be fair to all these, to the Kenyans that have got no representation so far so good, and that have been without this for some time now, get their justice and get their fair representation. So what then do we do? And I do want to listen, and I want to also agree with Dr. Milton that, we have to hold people in offices accountable. At the same time, we must not accept situations because we are forced to accept the situation because of maybe timelines or whatever the constitutional confusion that this is likely to put us into. Whatever problems we need to solve, it need to be solved once and for all. We do not need to come there. We know there has been a lot of problems with IEBC because I think, listen to the James Oswago guy, and the analogy of, or the fact that the CEO of such an institution does not last long. And therefore I ask myself, is it systemic? Is it by default? Is it meant to be that way? What is it that it is ailing us? Why can't we make this? It's a commission, supposed to be independent, supposed to be whatever, as the name says, it is independent, electoral body, whatever our boundaries and commission, whatever it is, it's supposed to be independent. Therefore, why is it that it is not independent? It therefore does not matter who we put into those offices. They will be interfered with, maybe replacing the eye. Therefore, we must not accept things because we need to solve, or maybe if a hand is broken, you cannot go putting it a band-aid. It's not working. It has to be taken through the procedures for it to be okay that time and moving into the future. I want to give you an example that, like, for example, I'm currently in Canada, and you all know that, some of you may know that the prime minister resigned and another prime minister came in who was not a member of parliament, but because of the situations and the conduct of Canada, they had to call for a by-election. And because it's the prime minister who wanted to come into parliament so that he can have a seat, therefore had to call for a national election for everybody who was in parliament, had to go home and seek a fresh mandate. And when that one happened on 28th of April in the morning, and by evening we knew that the prime minister, who was the then the liberal leader, was leading. Yesterday, in a riding or in a constituency that was taken in for a recount, the difference was 1 vote. And now people are now contempt that the elections was, the election was won and by 1 vote. So can we even get close to that kind of a thing, given that in Kenya, all the things that we seem to do are always on borrowed kind of an agenda? I'm saying this because when you look at the education system, it's borrowed from somewhere. And it's a mix of some sort of a thing. You look at Brazil, where we have got about 50 million voters. They vote in the morning, and by evening, we know who is going home and who is going to lead the country. In Kenya, what's the problem with us? We don't even have 20 million people who vote per day. But this has led to what we saw last time, over 8 million people having no confidence in that institution called IEBC, and even taking the most important responsibility, their civic responsibility to go in and vote. So what's my point here? We, the Kenyan people, have got the tools that never used to be there before, and we need to use them, including platforms like this, to be able to bring the change that we seriously deserve. I will be coming later because I will be going for the governor. Yeah, I'm landing. I'm the gubernatorial position in Nyandarua County, but that does not just come easily. It therefore says, and we have to have some of the things that we desire put in place today. That is, we have to put our economic agenda out there, and people must tell us what they have done, what they are going to do to make sure that we are not in this mess, and our generations to come will not have to solve these problems that we are solving today. I know each generation has got their own problem, but we must therefore fix our economy. We must fix our Kenya country, and that is the way we are going to deal with this situation. Thank you so much, Hilary. Thank you so much, Abdi. And thank you so much to everybody for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Kimani. Thank you for your submission. Before we proceed, I want to bring in Anthony before I bring in the ladies. We want to hear the ladies' voice. Anthony has been on the mic for some time. And Anthony, I just want to bring you with a question that as you come in, we had the Court of Appeal ruling that exposes a serious constitutional breach. The bench that had Gachagwa's impeachment case was unlawfully constituted, and the Deputy Chief Justice's role in that process now has been declared unconstitutional. So that's not a small technicality. It's a fundamental failure of judicial procedure. Until a newly properly constituted bench rehears the matter, the Gregorian High Court remains binding. I really want to ask you this question. How do you ensure future impeachment proceedings are not tainted by procedural illegitimacy, especially when they involve top office? And what's your view on this as you come in also? Thank you. The mic is yours, Anthony.
Thank you very much, Abdi. Thank you, Hilary, for hosting this wonderful space. I'll go direct to your question, and it's a wonderful question. When you read the Constitution, each arm of government is given very clear instructions on what powers and privileges each president of that docket holds. So I'll start by giving you an example. When we were looking at the impeachment of the deputy president, the reason the deputy president and the president, that's called the presidency. You can't separate them. It's the presidency. So the only person who had the power to appoint the judges hearing the case was the president of the judiciary. But this is what argued in my thinking. Since we are impeaching the deputy president, we can have the deputy of the judiciary appoint the 3-bench judge, which was wrong. It was fundamentally wrong. Because when you look at the duties that the Constitution gives the Chief Justice, it is clear as day. And that is one of the most wonderful things about the Constitution that we gave ourselves in the 2010, is that it did not leave room for speculation. It was clear that the Chief Justice, these are her roles, or These are the roles for the Chief Justice, may it be male or female. And if you go back to that day, you remember there was first of all a rumor that the Chief Justice was out of the country. The Chief Justice made an appearance intentionally. She did not appear by mistake. I think she was somewhere in Mombasa or Nakuru. But because the president was hell-bent on impeaching his deputy, they asked themselves, how do we circumnavigate this? Like, how do we go around it? Because from where I sit, I think the Chief Justice refused to play ball. She was like, I'm not going to be part of this, because there's that link of Gachagua is from Meru and I'm in Meru, and her also, she understands the law very well, that this in itself was an illegality. So the government was told, if you find a way of doing it, coming up with the bench, you do it, but I'm not going to be part of it. Because I think that she's very conscious about how history will remember her. And that is how we ended up with the deputy appointing the grey bench that had the impeachment of Rigathi, which was illegal. And the government knew, and the lawyers trying to caution the judges that this in itself is illegal. But even if we all know it's illegal, let's continue with the case, because whether we continue with the case or not, you still issue a verdict. So that's why when the lawyers were prosecuting their case, they were not doing it because they did not expect the impeachment to go through. They were prosecuting the case to the public. They wanted the public to know the merits of the case, though they already knew the outcome. But to your second part of the question is, going forward, what will happen? Remember, this is the first time we've impeached the deputy president. Going forward, the deputy chief justice will never, ever again take over roles that she knows that she cannot do according to the constitution. Because I always say, if me, a layperson, can read the constitution, and that's one of the beauties of the Kenya's constitution, and that's why it's called the most progressive constitution in the world. The authors of the constitution made it so simple that you did not need to be a lawyer. You did not need to go to law school to understand it. They wrote it in the layman's language. So it is self-explanatory. So going forward, this will never happen again. But for me, the biggest question is, is Kenya in a state that everything the deputy president is doing currently is illegal? Like, will it hold ground? You know, someone can come and say the deputy president has chaired a cabinet meeting or has chaired the IEBC, because the deputy president is also in charge of chairing the IEBC where all governors sit. Someone can come and say all the resolutions of any meeting, any resolution passed by the deputy president is null and void, because he's occupying that seat illegally. Now, that to me is the biggest question going forward. But what does this do to the Rigathi Gachagua? Rigathi Gachagua, for people who have studied his politics, he's not a fool. And you remember, even when he used to be deputy, he used to say, I might look like a fool, but I'm definitely not one. Rigathi Gachagua does not react. He listens, he calculates, then he talks. And that is the reason you've seen him consolidate. In the history of this country, no one has consolidated a region that quickly. It has never happened. It took Ruto, as people now call him the genius, the godfather of politics. It took him from 1992 to 2002 to consolidate Rift Valley behind him. And then it took him another from 2002 up to now, when they did the Nini with Uhuru, to almost have this thing that I can bring Rift Valley to you as a block. Rigathi Gachagua will define. People might accept this or not, but Rigathi Gachagua will define Kenyans' politics, not in the short term, but in the long term. And you go back to what he said. Rigathi Gachagua is a man, you listen to what he says, then digest it. He always talks about what he's going to do before he does it. He said, look at Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga has been in every government, even if he does not win the election. So to those who are asking whether Rigathi wants to win, Rigathi is not interested in winning. He only needs to control 47% of this country's vote block, which is the Kikuyu vote. Or let me call it the largely Gema vote, which is what Raila Odinga did with the Luo Nyanza vote. So Rigathi is saying, even if Ruto wins, he will not govern without me. Whoever wins going forward, whether you've impeached me or not, you will never govern this country without me. I'll always be either a prime minister, you'll always make a seat for me. That is what Rigathi is angling for. And if by luck he wins, like he's cleared to that the impeachment was illegal and Rigathi can run, and he becomes president, then we will see how he governs. But let me talk about the IEBC you are talking about. There's a statement he made
Anthony.
today.
Before you switch on gears, so let me just take you back to the constitutional and the controlling. Now, given the legal ambiguity and the institutional confusion you talked about surrounding the deputy president's office, what is is there a constitutional or a political cure? Should Parliament intervene? Should the judiciary fast track a fresh hearing? Or is this a moment that demands a broader constitutional reform to insulate high office from political manipulation and judicial capture? What's your thought?
I think you've summarized it very well. The last part is actually what should be happening. That we've seen an illegality and we really need to relook the constitution and say, why are we allowing this to happen? So unless now a Kenyan citizen, any Kenyan citizen comes out and says, if this is what the High Court has said, then Kindiki Kithure is not my deputy president. But you see, when we do not agitate, status quo remains. So because no Kenyan is reacting, including the impeached deputy president, and people should be asking themselves, why isn't he making any noise about it? Why isn't he saying, I'm the aggrieved one, I need to be the deputy president? You know, that is the question everyone is asking. Why is he comfortable sitting and observing? Because clearly the constitution was breached. Not breached, it was torn apart. Because look at it. When the deputy president was in parliament, you know, there's a time the speaker allows someone else to sit in his seat. But when the deputy president is there, because of the sheer power, the presidency is on the seat, the speaker will be on the seat. When he went to the Senate, the same. The leader of the Senate will be on the seat. You know, it's not those places Kinky can say the deputy speaker will sit. No. So Ruto had aligned all the entire impeachment, but the only place he had a problem was with the Chief Justice. And that's where Philomena Mwilu came in. I don't want to talk about Philomena Mwilu in a way because she's not here to defend herself to tell us whether this was right or this was wrong. But if any of you has the Constitution, go and read it. The duties of the Chief Justice are articulated black and white. The duties of the Chief Justice are articulated black and white. It is very clear that the Chief Justice shall appoint a 3-bench judge to listen to any case in regards to the impeachment of the president or his deputy. It is clear. And it is also clear when you read the duties of the Deputy Chief Justice, those roles are not mentioned there. So I don't know how we ended up there. I don't know why the judges who sat in that case decided to sit and hear it in the first place. We wait to see because the petitioner here, Rigathi, says he's going to appeal the case. So he's no longer dealing here. He wants to go to the next level. And we see, and I also feel he's using it as a smoking gun. I think that case will be his ace card. Towards the end, he wants to use it as his ace card because it will really help him garner political mileage. For me, that's how I'm looking at it. But you stopped me when I wanted to talk about the IEBC.
Finish your submission, we go to the next speaker, and then we'll take
So when you come to the IEBC, when people look at the IEBC, and I'll come back and tell people, whoever the commissioners are is not really important. I'm going to tell you why Raila Odinga lost with 200,000 votes. Raila Odinga lost with 200,000 votes because in Mount Kenya in particular, Jubilee messed with the returning officers. That is where Ruto beat Raila with 200,000 votes. If you go to the leader, the person who was heading Raila Odinga's ODM's campaign, this Masai guy, he said, look at the last minute. Karanja Kebicho, that's what they say when you read his book. Karanja Kebicho was supposed to coordinate all the returning officers in Mount Kenya region. And he was even given money. On the day of the tallying, returning officers were not paid. So what is the work of the returning officer of a political party? He's the one who appends his signature to the results at the polling station, because that's the ultimate. So don't worry so much about the commissioners, because the commissioners only read the results that are tabulated and submitted by the returning officer at the polling station. So the polling station is where elections are determined in this country. Because after what happens at the polling station, they submit or they transmit the agreed results to IEBC headquarters. And when I say agreed, it means that everyone standing for the presidency, for MCAs, for MP, each one of them has a person in the polling station. So once they go to the forms and we all count the votes, each of those returning officers for each candidate agrees that, yes, I was here, we've verified the results, and these are the actual results. And that is how Dennis Itumbi was able. Dennis Itumbi was getting information from the returning officers, and that's why he's always able to transmit the results before they hit IEBC. So when it comes to IEBC, people really need to ask themselves, the polling stations, where are we going to have these polling stations? The next thing we need to be very careful about is delimitations of the new constituencies, because we are going to have new constituencies coming in. Some constituencies will be divided into two. So these new constituencies coming in will determine a lot. Another thing we need to look at as I finish, Abdi, is we are going to go next year, not this year. I don't think this year we are going to have any elections. Next year, we are going to go into by-elections, or towards November or December, we are going to go into by-elections. That is where all political parties will weigh their popularity. And that is where William Ruto will be able to weigh whether he will win the next elections or he will lose. Remember, during the last elections, William Ruto won all by-elections. And that is why he knew he was onto something. Okay? So let us look at very keenly about the by-elections. I've seen someone put on the Jumbotron that for the first time we have the lowest, there's a 39% drop in voter registration. We need to ask ourselves, when we say the Gen Zs are the new, this will be the sledgehammer that will slay William Ruto and will be the end to bad governance. Why aren't they enthusiastic about registering to vote? Remember, the Gen Zs have a very unique mind. They don't think like us. They are not driven by emotions. By the way, they are driven purely by logic. The one thing they are unable to do is have a common purpose. You know, everyone has a divergent opinion, and it makes it very difficult for them to converge into one vehicle, because they believe what they believe and they are very strong in what they believe, and it takes a lot to sway them. So that will be my submission on this. I think the state of the nation right now, we are in a very expectant mood, because next week the president will, I think next week or in the next 2 weeks, the president is going to officially append his signature to the IEBC list. So those will be the commissioners. I expect all of them to go through, because the president controls all houses, both the Senate and Parliament. So if those are the commissioners he wants, those are the commissioners he'll get. Going forward, we need to organize ourselves, not for anything, but to vote. Because if we don't organize ourselves, we will be complaining, because people forget that Ruto is an organized voting machine. And that is why looking at lately, you realize there's a lot of politics happening in Central. The deputy president has camped here in Mount Kenya. You know, he was here, he was in just across my home on Saturday. He was in Nyandarua. We need to ask ourselves, why is deputy president now in Mount Kenya? Why is Farouk Kibet has been assigned to cover Western Kenya? We have Sarai Omar Hassan covering the coastal region. And we have this guy who used to work for Ruto in his communication team, who right now seems to be the leader. You know, he's in every TV station talking about the Gen Zs. What are we doing, we ourselves? Na tusipojipanga tutapangwa. To me, that would be my submission.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's bring some ladies. Hannah, the mic is yours. And then we go to Redemptor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy Women's Day, Redemptor. Happy Ladies' Day. Anyway, and to all the women around, wenye wako na watoto, happy Mother's Day. Na msisahau kupelekea mabibi flowers tafadhalini. That is one of the stuff. Anyway, wasaidieni na muambiani asante. Thank you very much, Anthony. You have just tackled the last thing that I wanted to talk about, because what I've seen this week is that people are losing, especially Gen X's and millennials. I do not know what is going on. They are going back to their status quo when it comes to politics. Comfortable zone. They do not want to come out from that mentality whereby there is something new coming in. And I'm hoping, I am really hoping that they are going to catch up with the Gen Z mentality, whereby the seed of the revolution has already been put. The change is supposed to be here. The change is all a matter of you taking your vote and going to vote for somebody who you know very well will bring you good change, and you will be comfortable, you, your family, your life, your health, your chickens, and even your animals. Yes, this is something that you know it's supposed to be, but there is pessimism coming in by these people. I do not know. I held a space and you'd feel that they are giving up. It's like they're waiting for that change to come soon. But at the same time, they're like, oh, in any case, nothing is going to change. So let's just let it go. Let's just wait. Yani ni kama wanatupilia mbali hiyo. Ni kama change will come. Change will come because everybody has felt the pain, has felt the pinch. And we have just to think and not think about as a group, just think about you yourself. What do you want? What exactly would you want to vote for? Who do you want to vote for? Why would you want to vote for? And that is why I put in the comment section an article which was written by Isli what? An Isli newspaper, whereby they said that half of the people who were asked questions, they do not believe in the IEBC. 50%, they do not have confidence in integrity of the 2027 general election. So you see already these are people who, when you go on the ground, in the same time I went to the, I held the space, somebody came and said 3 of the friends that they usually talk to have decided they will not vote. Millennials, they will not vote. This already is your, it is your, it is your mandate to vote. It's like going take a shower for your hygiene. So you are telling people, because the IEBC is not according to what you are looking at, you're going to throw away that opportunity of voting because you do not like what you are seeing. Reality is, people, we have to start thinking outside the box. Because change does not come because you just sit around and say, sasa kwa sababu the IEBC does not look normal, I will not go and vote. You have to go and vote. That is your mandate, your civic duty. So that pessimism whereby this generation, I'm sorry to say again, X and millennials, you're bringing to spaces, you are the adults actually in the homes, and now you are putting those pessimism to the young, the youth. Ndio maana hawataki kutusikiza. I'm a millennial, and I feel like sometimes I'm also tired by the people who I am speaking to when they all think about the same way. Hamuoni, yani ni kama hawaoni after that. Yani it's, I don't know if it's because we have not as a country paid or even had that opportunity of living a free life. You know, when you have tasted it, maybe you have an apprehension of it. But I think because that tumezoea kufinywa tu, so we have accepted kufinywa as something that is normal. And so when we think about being told get out of it, we do not accept. And that is the reason as to why politicians have understood us. And they go on TV and they go on radio. They come to us and they speak the same things. Na the same things ni Ruto mnataka aende wapi. So already mnapigwa juu. Nyinyi mnakuja na hiyo information, mnakuja mnaangusha wale wengine. So guys, be aware that if you do not want change, we will put that change without you guys. Those who are pessimists. Mutakaa ndani ya nyumba mfanye chenye wale Gen Z na wale wenye wa believing that their hearts are they really need that change. They really, because the change is here. Change imekuja na nyinyi ndio mnakataa. Wewe mwenyewe ndio unakataa. So kama unakataa shauri yako, mimi nasema, and I'm telling you this, the change will come. And those people who believe in it, they will make it because they never accepted to be put down by other people. Because how badly do you want it? If you really want it, really, really want that change, if you believe in it, then you will do it. Sometimes, even these big entrepreneurs, they have mentors and they even have coaches so that they do not believe that the whole plan, the whole enterprise is going to fall down. Because when they really get to that point where mashida zinakuja, they are not making profit. Most people, because we are all human, they can give up so easily and sell the enterprise just to make a little bit of something and pay the other people. But they invest into somebody who is going to motivate them. So I'm here to motivate you guys. And I'm telling you, Gen X's and millennials, tafadhalini, listen to my voice. I do not know how many thousands on miles the politicians are going to talk to you and cry to you and tell you things which are so much negative that you are always in a negative kind of information and surrounding. Tafadhalini, listen to my voice for once. Just believe in something so that your progenitor, your kids and your kids' kids can live a life. Ruto has no intention of you coming out of this thing humanly. As in, hataki mkuwe na anything, hataki mu own anything. That is his mentality. Anataka awakanyage, nyinyi mkuoga mnamlipa every time. Yani taxes zenyu zikuwe zina make sure they live their happy. And it is supposed to be the other way around. Start believing that you are the one who is supposed to be living in a better environment. So your negativity, mutupie yeye, and start believing in that which is good. Thank you, Abdi. I'm sorry I had to say that because it was too much for me. It was really too much. I held a space and it was very, very sad. Unajua kuna mahali nafika mpaka unaangalia hivi unajiuliza yenyewe, what can I do to make sure these people understand and see this thing, that it is possible, really? Because it is there, but I think we need motivators in these spaces somehow, because we cannot do it just political. I think psychologically sometimes it is really demeaning, and we need some people who are going to talk to people in another language that they have never heard. That is my humble opinion.
Thank you.
And I leave it to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannah, for your submission. Redemptor, do you want to do a quick opening and then we go to Sam and then we cycle back to you?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. Sorry, I've been listening in quietly, not participating. And Hannah, to all the listeners who are mothers in this and who play the role of mother, we wish you a happy Mother's Day. Toma Minua Mkono, just give me 1 minute. Just to say that, Hannah, you've made my Mother's Day better. And I do understand. And maybe that's why we really needed a woman's voice in this conversation, because it was beginning to sound like the politicians are magicians. They are the mighty ones. They are so clever. They are political geniuses. And I was beginning to, like when they said that, Rigathi will determine the destiny. No, Gen Z's disrupted what has been going on in this nation for 40 years. It is the Gen Zs who might fail to mobilize and organize, but they did it. So thank you, Hannah. Before I speak, what I had prepared for the day is that, yes, these politicians, you've read their stories, you know where they've been for the last 40 years, 30 years. Yes, you know all that. But then we have a generation that is enlightened and they know how you talk. And you always talk like, let's go to the promised land. No, no, no. They are giants. They have stolen so much. They know how to vote. No, to rig, not about vote management. It's about rig management. And even as we talk about politicians, before I let other people speak, before I do make my presentation, which I had prepared, because there are too many moving parts and it's overwhelming. And I just want to let people know that anybody who tunes in space is an active citizen. So we don't here to come to convince people who already are not convinced. There are people who are convinced that status quo will remain. And then there are people who are convicted that we will do whatever it's to disrupt this system. It is just how many bills have been passed as we talk and scream ourselves hoarse. Yes, there's masters, there are players, they are so mighty, but young people died saying reset button. And so I know I listen to people make very eloquent submissions about the geopolitics or political histories, but they fail to acknowledge that from June 25th, Kenya will never be the same again. That Kenyans, the youthful Kenyans converged. And you're right, Hannah, it is the millennials who are struggling more than the other generation. I say that, I speak for my generation. They are rooting for their children because what the Gen Zs did not drop from the skies. They came from their homes. They were carrying our pains. They were carrying our cowardice, and they had converted it into courage. So thank you, Hannah, for making my evening better with your submissions, because I was beginning to think we are in a space where we are saying they are mightier, they are stronger, and the memory of the young people is in vain. So I will make my final submissions probably because there are too many moving parts. There are so many players, there are so many interest groups, and what has changed from the way you are discussing how politics work? What has changed is the pain, the economic pain, an enlightened and a woke generation, and hungry Mukamba, and the angry population that you've seen that are we heartless or we very hurt. So I would want to talk about my observations for the week about these moving parts and about how restless they are feeling. All the people who are thinking we are mighty, we are strong. And there's one thing, every time you arrange your house, there's a place you face your furniture, mostly the TV. But now all the conversation are left to this gaping hole. What do the Gen Zs want? And you saw them come on TV stations, and then you saw them argue on spaces. You saw them give press. They are trying to test the waters to see who is the Gen Z, the youthfulness. So the state of the nation is that even with the IEBC and all the fear that people are feeling and helplessness, it is emotional fatigue. But let's keep talking. Like Hannah says, some of us here come here to humanize conversations and also to say there's always the spiritual element of life where you plan everything and then you die before your plans come to through. So stop giving these people immortality as if whatever they plan. How many plans have you made in your life? How many businesses have failed in your life? You're human like they are. So they are also planning. Maybe this is a business venture for them because they have partners who've given them money to stay in power. But sometimes you plan and a force mightier than a tsunami cancels all your plans. Those are my introductory statements, and I look forward to a more positive conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Redemptor. We are on the top of the hour, so I will give 2 minutes to Sam, 2 minutes to Tomboya, 2 minutes to Hulu, and then we cycle back, and Fabia, then we cycle back to the panel to have their closing statement. Sam, the mic is yours. Just a quick.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Hillary. Mine would be very simple and straightforward. One, I find it very difficult to be convinced by Anthony that Rigathi Gachagua thinks so well before he utters his words. I think that will be very far from the truth. Rigathi Gachagua was impeached. I don't know whether there is any court that can overturn the impeachment that was done by Parliament. The legalities as to whether he was properly impeached or not is neither here nor there. So somehow we are trying to say that the president of the Supreme Court knows the law, and that is why somehow she distanced herself from the case and somehow left it go on without her. That is a fallacy. She knew everything. And she substantively swore the current deputy president into office. So she's part of this game. So trying to imagine that somehow we don't have a deputy president and Rigathi Gachagua remains the deputy president, that is being too imaginative for nothing. Number two, 2027 people will go to the ballot and we are likely to vote in a lesser devil, or we shall vote in the worst of all because people are angry. And we are not going to have anybody dropping from the skies into the ballot paper so that we can take him or her into office. These people, the political players we see now, those are the very people that we shall be voting for. I don't see anybody who is going to emerge between now and 2027 who is so convincing to all of us that we shall rally behind him and vote him in, and it'll be our savior. I mean, that would be too imaginative again. What we should be doing is we should be making our demands very clear. I know the people in office know what Kenyans want. We are very angry. We don't like how we are being treated. We don't like everything that is happening in this government because it's a government of deals and dealings, so to speak. So we need to tone down. We are likely to make a choice in 2027 with a lot of anger, just like we did in 2022. William Ruto convinced people and he told people that the problems they were facing then were purely problems orchestrated by Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. And people believed him because people were in a state of despair. We were coming out of COVID in 2002, 2020 going to 2021. So we were in a bad economic state. And someone knew that people needed some hope. So he carried that hope through the hustler movement and people believed him. And the same thing, we shall have someone who will convince us, just like Rigathi is doing, telling us that he's the savior now and these other political players. And maybe we shall trust them for some reason. So I don't know. I don't see anybody that is gonna come who is so angelic that is going to deliver us from these problems. We are in deep problems and we shall be coming out of these problems bit by bit. But I am very hopeful, and whoever that will be in office come 2027 will know that he needs or they need to do things differently. And I hope that will be the case. Finally, I listened to Dr. Milton. He said that IEBC is a letdown. And somehow I have a different opinion. If I look at 2022, there was the presidential petition, and people were asking in court, of all the polling stations that you have, can you show me an example where there is a disparity between what you have from the polling station and what is on the public portal? Nobody was able to come out with a paper and tell us that this is a discrepancy I see here, and therefore this election was flawed. We've come a long way with IEBC. People have invested their brains, people have invested in terms of technology. At least we had a verifiable election. You might not like it 100%, but we've made steps. I can make a comparison with our electoral system and that of the US, for example. Donald Trump does not believe in mailing marked ballots. He doesn't believe in that. He is going back to paper ballots. That is what he believes in, that people must go to the to the polling station, cast their votes, and that vote should be counted from the polling station. I mean, there is nowhere in the world where the voting system is 100% clean. But I can tell you, as the IEBC in Kenya, from where I sit, we've come a long way. And we must not castigate the efforts made by IEBC. Finally, I wanted someone to come out and say, of all the candidates that were interviewed, IEBC candidates, I have an issue with candidate A because how he was answering the questions, his credentials, I don't feel like he can make the fit to become chair or to become a commissioner, IEBC commissioner. I mean, that is the constructive criticism that I would want to take. But waking up in the morning and saying, that before those guys are Ruto's people, those guys are whose people, what is your control opinion to what the panelists put forward? So do you have anything? Did you listen to the interview? Did you listen to how they were answering the questions? I mean, their past experiences. What is your divergent opinion? Can you put it on the table? Not just waking up and saying, I don't like them, just because they were in pan. I mean, they were, their names were forwarded for ascension. So let us tone down. I mean, people are angry, but we can make a decision that is worse than we are in. If we continue being so angry, we don't want to listen to anybody. Anybody who has a contrary opinion is bad, and such like stuff. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Redemptor.
Thank you. Let's go to who was next on the speaker panel? Tomboya and
Me.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Abdi, who is going to speak now?
Ulu, go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much, Abdi. And thank you, Redemptor, and thank you, Hillary. The story of Kenya has, captivated many of us as Africans, having seen those of you, good friends, who poured onto the streets to, to ask for a better country. We were all glued onto our television stations. We watched you, the Kenyans, and you became very popular in terms of having that desire to see a better country. So I would love to say to you, thank you very much, all the Kenyans who have always been working very hard to see a beautiful Kenya and to be role models to many of us in Africa. Before these things happened in Kenya, most of us Africans were unaware of what sort of a president Mr. Ruto was. We didn't understand exactly why, after he was elected as the president of Kenya, in the circumstances that he was elected, why the people were so unhappy with his leadership. But particularly for us in Zimbabwe, we have now grown to understand the type of president that is President Ruto. We are deeply disappointed to see him hobnobbing and becoming friends with individuals in our country, such as the so-called businessman Wicknell Chivayo, who has always been paraded together with President Ruto, and a man that has worked very hard to make it impossible for Zimbabweans to have a free and fair, credible election by winning tenders for the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission and manipulating our electoral processes to make it impossible for the will of the people to be respected in our country. And therefore, when we saw President Ruto of Kenya being in the company of this individual, not once, not twice, not thrice, but several times, we started to realize what sort of an individual the president who is there in Kenya is. Somebody that I believe the majority of Kenyans now believe is an obstacle to progress. And I hope that the Kenyans themselves together, united, as they have shown us, will continue to raise the alarm where any sort of investments in Kenya, are planned by individuals such as this discredited businessman from our country, must be rejected, must be condemned, and people in Kenya must be aware that this man represents very little when it comes to ethics. He was given an opportunity in our country to develop a 100 megawatt solar power, and he squandered all the money, and there was absolutely nothing that he offered. Today, in our country, despite him claiming to be a billionaire, for which we believe he could be a billionaire actually, he has got no record of any workers in Zimbabwe, no record of any tax payment from his so-called businesses, even his own offices that, nobody knows where they are. He simply has got money, dishing out money everywhere he goes and giving people money. It is regrettable that we have such individuals, going across borders into Kenya to also sow seeds of discord in that country. And we hope that the Kenyans will be aware and vigilant to these kinds of nefarious activities perpetrated by such individuals and where the president of Kenya is involved. We hope that the president, if he's listening, Mr. Ruto, could change and become a better individual and work for the betterment of Kenyans, respect ethics, and promote the dignity of the African. I want to thank you, Abdi, as well as Redemptor and Hillary, for this opportunity to share these views with fellow Africans. My good friend, Robert Mwara, I see you in the space. Thank you for inviting me to this congregation of individuals, because this, of course, is about our people. This must remain about also our continent of Africa. And this is yet another day that we have been given an opportunity to discuss these issues. So, Abdi, thank you very much for this. We must remain vigilant as Africans. We must remain aware that we have a duty to make sure that our continent becomes strong, our continent becomes progressive, our continent is truly independent and prosperous, because we do have the minerals and we can be able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Hulu joining us from Zimbabwe. I think your presence is a powerful reminder that this conversation transcends borders, because the struggle for accountable governance, electoral integrity, constitutionalism is a shared African pursuit. What's happening in Kenya is not isolated across the continent. We are seeing regime and a democratic institution weaponize the law, manipulate electoral process, cling to power, but we are all witnessing a new wave of generation refusing to be silent. This is the moment to build up an African front of vigilance and solidarity. Because when one nation stands up, it inspires the others. And when we connect the dots between Harare, Nairobi, Lagos, Dhaka, we move from resistance to transformation. Thank you again, Hulu. Let's continue this conversation. Now I will bring, we're on the top of the hour. Let me bring in Professor Sayansi, is it? Siasa, something, and then we go to Sheila. Thank you.
Hello. Abdi, I thought I was next.
Oh, Tomboya, go ahead. Tomboya, go ahead. I thought your hand was down. So then we go to Professor, and we go to Sheila, and then we do our closing remarks. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Kenyans, and happy Mother's Day to all mothers on this platform. I have this to share just to address the state of the nation and IEBC. I'm glad that the three previous speakers, that is Hannah, Anthony, and Redemptor, touched on something that I had planned to talk about. So in that sense, they added flesh on my points. The state of Kenya, we started at a point of information. We realized that the government of the day is taking a wrong direction, and we decided to speak out. The information reached people through different social media platforms. There are those of us who attended Bunge la Wananchi, and there are those of us who organized in different spaces on the ground to make sure that Kenyans understand the issues, especially the finance bill. So we shared information on a particular issue and we got a result. It started by saying finance bill must be rejected. It was rejected successfully. Secondly, we came to realize that indeed Ruto is a worst leader for the country. There were 14 points that were shared as to reasons as to why Ruto must go. Top on the list was disregard to rule of law. We succeeded until Ruto himself came to the people and told the people that I concede defeat. Therefore, you have won. The next point was Ruto must go. And we have solved that issue until everywhere I go, you ask people, who do you think we should vote as the next president? Some people just tell you, of course, I will not vote Ruto, but still I don't know. But some of them say, at least someone they think should be voted. But as we speak, majority still do not know who they are going to vote. So we also won on Ruto must go. What I think, the world is continuing and Kenya is not at a standstill. The date for the next election is obviously coming, whether we prepare or not. We've done a lot of work keeping, communicating, and educating people on platforms like this. But where are we really headed to? I think a time came that we had to start organizing. At this point, I really advise us to intentionally move to the next step, organize to take political power. It's very unfortunate that the state of of the nation currently, we are at a situation whereby everybody who was passionately on this platform, who made sure that Kenyans are informed so that we win on reject finance bill, we win on making Kenyans believe that Ruto must go. Right now, we are against any person who comes out and they speak, they are ready to take political power. We are against them. We find ourselves branding people, project, a sellout, and many kinds of adjectives that we give them. Also, I believe that as we organize to take political power, we need to start campaigning. And we campaign on issues so that at the end of the day, we also win on one point that I'm very passionate about. If at all for the first time, the people of Kenya could make a finance bill to be rejected. If at all for the first time, people of Kenya, just before 3 years in power, can agree that Ruto must go. Why can't we agree that drain the swamp is possible? Why can't we agree that it is possible to reset this nation? Why can't we agree that we can campaign on this issue and make Kenyans believe that indeed we must never take more from these political elites, these tribal kingpins that have made us to go through a vicious cycle, that always in election, we have to choose between the worst and the bad. I believe that where we stand right now and what we should focus on as Kenyans, informed Kenyans, especially now on this platform, we must identify a candidate that we believe can transform this country and campaign for them passionately until we succeed. I also urge us, why is it that we can't come on this platform and tell each of us, me as Redemptor, I think this is the person that can transform this country. We are at a level whereby we have to identify a leader. And if we don't do that as soon as now, then we will just be caught off guard and we'll elect the same people. Myself, I am asking you Kenyans, what do we find wrong in the person of Okia Omtata? Because for a fact, we have said that we do not want the politicians that have always been around, that pulls us to our tribes so that we make decisions based on our feelings, based on through a brainwashed mindset. What is wrong with the person of Okia Omtata? So I'm just starting by giving an example. Personally, I believe that Okia Omtata, when he takes power, he can transform this country because he believes on the rule of law and he has proven it. He has also proven that he's a person of integrity. He has also talked about the debt crisis that obviously is one of the key issues that is making Kenya not to make steps. He has also talked on industrialization. All these factors are possible. Why can't we believe in the person of Maraga? And why can't we have a discussion whereby when you present your candidate, then we can just question, why do you think this person is better and this person is not better? After we are done with that, we can agree to walk out and speak to Kenyans on the ground and embrace these new voices, these youthful people that are coming on board to at least help change the direction of Kenyan politics. I believe it is possible. Why are we mark timing? Why are we not in agreement that such a person can take leadership of the country and so that we transform this country? So that is generally where I'm ending. And I hope going forward, I hope going forward, we can start having a conversation on who is going to be the next president of Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Professor, the mic is yours. 2 minutes, please. And we are doing a closing remark, and then we bounce back to Sheila, and then we just cycle to the panelists for closing remark. Thank you.
Thank you very much, host. Greetings to
Okay, hello, Sam. Thank you.
Sheila, we lost you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
I was extending my appreciation to our fellow Africans that are supporting the movement in Kenya. I'd like to say, first of all, everyone who's saying Sijui Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, it's no longer any generation. It is all of us. And the fact that we are all not taking the same steps to ensure that we want better leadership, it does not mean that we are not together. First of all, it's a rainy season right now. There is no generation that is using a special road. Every generation, Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Y, everyone is using a flooded road. Everyone is complaining. There is no one who's satisfied about leadership except those people who are getting favors or who are getting money from the government. Those are the only people who can sit and say they are satisfied, who are not even 1% of the Kenyans. So all of us are suffering, and I want to guarantee every Kenyan that's on this space that we are all feeling the pinch. There is nothing like Gen Z anymore. There is nothing that like millennial anymore. There is no
Sounds like we lost Sheila. Sheila, can you hear me?
Let Prof go ahead.
Okay, let Professor go ahead. I think Professor dropped probably. I just bring him back. Meanwhile, let's give, I see one speaker that, what is the name? Abdul Rahman. 1 minute, please. Rashid. Yes, we can hear you.
That have been made earlier. But I want to dismiss some two notions, not in a bad way. One thing, I would like to state that revolutions everywhere in the world are always triggered by angry citizens. Now, the worst move that the Gen Z movement made were emotional decisions. Like we went for a revolution when you are fully emotional, not really well equipped, knowing that money is usually used by politicians at the center stage to actually place cards or overturn cards on the table. And that was the worst mistake that we ever did.
Why do I advise or urge we Kenyans to actually move into the ballot revolution come 2027 when we are angry? When William Ruto actually came through his journey since 2017 to 2022, he actually played with our emotions. We made our decisions to actually elect that government into office out of emotions. We felt that the economy during the Uhuru regime was not performing. The currency was not performing. Actually, corruption was at its peak. But who was actually the thief in that regime? You look at all the scandals, the sequence of scandals since 2013 during Ruto regime, come 2017. And the thief inside that regime, just as the way we know him, actually manipulated our emotions. Therefore, I think the best decision that we can ever make as a nation is to go to this election as a revolution, as angry citizens who actually want to get their power back into their hands. Why? The elites are regrouping. I do agree with many that Justice Ruto is not an option. I also don't think Wamunyoro is in any way better, a better option for us on the table. But now the question is, do we have the ability, do we have the capacity actually to drive a revolution with maybe a neutral or a new candidate on the table? And in many dimensions, I would say no. But we would actually be able to control a government when we have the numbers on the ground, numbers in parliament, numbers in county assemblies, numbers in the Senate. We can be able to control a government when we are actually able to form the basis of that government when it comes to the composition of members of parliament and senators. Why do I say so? We cannot run away from the reality that the elite power theory usually forms the basis of our politics as Africans, and therefore when money will be put on the table, probably we will not be the best competitors actually to be on the table as young people. Then what should we do then? We should actually mobilize our troops, mobilize each and every young person, and all inclusive citizens who actually have the goodwill of good governance in this country. Make sure that we have enough senators as young people, or people of rational thinking, or people with a straightforward agenda for this country. The same happens to the National Assembly. And by that, we are going to form the basis of our politics, the nature of how we do it, and make sure that Ruto actually does not become a one-term president, but becomes number one in everything, just as Wamunyoro says, and we liberate this country from the hands of the dogs and the thieves in this regime. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I think I totally agree with you. What we are witnessing is a spark of a ballot revolution. I think when citizens get angry, as you said, and organized, no force can stop them. The pain is real anyway. I agree. The betrayal is deep, and now the people are saying enough is enough. But let's be clear, and this is very true. I will take this bit, which is the elites are regrouping, trying to rebrand, recycle themselves. But this time we are not buying it. The game has changed. Angry citizens are no longer begging for change. We are taking it to the ballot. Let the fear of an informed and united electorate is what is causing them the jittery. Having said that, as we come to the close of this enlightening conversation, I will give the mic to there is a guy, Abdirrashid Adan, 1 minute. And then Sheila, we are coming to you. Thank you. Abdirrashid. Okay, I think Abdurrashid is not there. Sheila, go ahead. I see your hand is up. Sheila, we can't hear you.
Let us do the
Okay, so
closing
we can't
remarks.
hear
Abdi.
Sheila.
Yeah.
Sheila, we have been losing you on and off. I will do our closing remarks. So I'll bring Dr. Milton. Dr. Milton, the mic is yours, and then we go to Anthony. Or Anthony, you can start, and then we go to Dr. Milton. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary, and Abdi for always hosting this space and your consistency. My last remarks will be very direct. If there's this old adage that if you want to move fast, you move alone. But if you want to move, the old adage is if you want to move fast, move alone. But if you want to move quickly, move alone. But if you want to be consistent in your movement, form collaborations. And I'll urge all young people in this country, millennials, Gen Zs, the Gen Zote movement. It is a high time we start seeking collaborations. There are very many young people in this country, and they are spread across in the villages. Those are the people we ignore, but there are so many of them. If we form a formidable force, and if we come together and collaborate on the areas that we can agree on jobs, on housing, on medicine, on health, and we make sure that our concerns are on the table when the next government is being formed, then we shall have done a great service for us millennials to our children. For the Gen Zs, they will have done a great service for their future because they are the ones coming out of colleges and they are the people who are looking for employment. That is what we will do for this country and for the entire republic of this nation. We shall have done them the good service of saying, for once we delivered a country that is governed on ideology. It is not going to be an overnight success, but we shall be the generation that brought Kenya to a point where we say, never again shall this country move at the masses of the elite. Now we shall start moving as a nation. And I'm not saying we exclude the elite from this republic because they are part of this republic. But what I'm saying is that we need now to include the common average citizen. And this is what the Gen Z as Redemptor said. This is the moment the Gen Z burst to this country. But where I feel we failed is that this voter who's fed up with this government, this voter that is saying Ruto must go, where are we directing them? If we allow the same elite to form a government, to form a group that will end up on the ballot paper, we either need to figure out how we shall be on that ballot paper as a political party, because, or an independent, as people say. But most of the time, history has shown that political parties form governments. Independent people don't. As we move to the next elections, who do we collaborate with will be the question going forward. And if we don't want collaboration, how do we form a political party that espouses our beliefs and our ideology? Because whether we want it or not, 2027, we shall go to the ballot. Whether we want it or not, political parties will be on the ballot paper. And whether we want it or not, most people who go for leadership end up identifying themselves with political parties. The question is, who will best listen to the grievances that we have? That is where we need to put our effort. That is where we need to put our energy, and that is where we need to make our voices count. To the person who will listen, welcome us, and say, let us move forward together. We might not achieve the new Kenya in 2027, but we shall have set the ground for that new republic to be born going forward in the next elections. So let us work together, let us seek collaborations, and let us move forward. And I've always come to spaces, and I've always wanted to be very honest. I have not met Rigathi, sorry. I've met Eugene Wamalwa, I've met Kalonzo Musyoka. This coming week, I think I'll be meeting Martha Karua. And those are the things I would want us to discuss. Jobs, education. How does the youth voice become incorporated in this new formation of this movement? Because our voices must count for something. What happened in June 25th must count for something. And that is the path I chose, and that is the path I've been consistent with. I know some people might not agree with me, but I choose consistency over anything else. Those are my parting shots, and I seek collaboration, and I know eventually we will get somewhere together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Milton, the mic is yours.
Thank you. In making my closing remarks, I want to say three things. Number one, I think a question was asked about what happened at the Supreme Court when people were challenged to demonstrate how different the results that were announced were different from what was actually on the ground. I would want to say this, that you can only, if you went back to the public portal, and I want to say that for your information, that portal is not accessible anymore, which is a violation of the rule of law. And as somebody who was involved in following the elections, the results, and even to the Supreme Court, I want to tell you that what we had at the Supreme Court was to say the least, a charade, and there was no willingness from those involved as arbiters. There was no will, and we can demonstrate that there was monkey business that went on. But I don't want to get into those details. I want to say the next thing is that I think going forward, we need to dissociate and we need to delink, and that is my second point, individuals of the persona in the name of Rigiji or Kalonzo or Eugene or myself or anybody for that matter, to the character of the people that the Constitution and the law envisages. If we do that, it will be automatic to look at these people and isolate. What is that? I'm trying to get the right word for that. We will be able to fit the persona based on the criteria that the Constitution has given. And that way, we are not going to be confused about whether it is Rigiji or it is Milton or it is Abdi or it is whoever. We will be able to say that this is the character that the Constitution expects us to elect, and therefore the eligibility is not based on who is louder as tribal kingpin or who is louder from the rooftops of cars, but it is going to be based on what the Constitution has said. So you put these persons, all of them, into this box that is required. If they fit, then we would have automatically selected the right people who qualify. And we will not be trying to fit square pegs in round holes or vice versa. And I would encourage that we look at it from that perspective, so that whether it is Maraga, whether it is Matiang'i, whether it is Rigiji or whoever it is, they would be able to be, if you don't fit, you don't fit. If you fit, then you will be as a round peg in a round hole and not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole because this is what we have. We must be able to use the Constitution as the reference and as the guide. And finally, I want to speak to the issue of the constitutionality of what has happened with Rigiji and the decision that has come from the Court of Appeal. Good people, we have to mobilize ourselves against these people because we know what they represent and we know what we don't want. If we are able to do that, and when we do it faithfully and with the fidelity to the Constitution, we will not struggle to come up with the right candidate. We will not struggle to know that this is a competition between or amongst people that who meet the constitutional threshold. And we are not saying that we are mixing wheat and chaff, and then now we are struggling to say, okay, let us choose the lesser of the evil. We will not be going anywhere. As a people, we must reject in total people that who do not represent, who do not fit with the constitutional edict that the law expects our leaders to be. We will have left this country. The power of chance will be left to right against right, as opposed to having to choose between what is good and what is not good, or what is good and what is good enough. We have to be very, very loyal to the Constitution and not to the individual. People must be able to reject Milton because he does not fit the bill, not to consider Milton because he is the lesser evil, because we don't have anything better. We can actually achieve the best because Kenya deserves the best, because we have a blueprint that defines, that helps us to identify the right person for who they are and not for what they are not. I think that is what we have to continue doing. And Hillary and Abdi, I want to say this. If we could try and engage outside of these spaces for the 6 days that we are not on the spaces, we would be able to have a greater impact. I know we stand accused because we have said things that we have not followed through. Can we try? Could we make an effort to try and make one extra step beyond what we speak and what we do on Sunday in the 4 hours or 3 hours that we are active on the space? I think our impact would be felt. And I have to salute everybody that we have remained the most consistent space. Some that have come with short-term objectives have fallen by the wayside. But we need to make our space count. And we want to send a strong message to those people who are listening anonymously, including the one that represents everything that we are rejecting and we want to go. It might sound abstract in my closing remarks, but I want to be very, very deliberate in being abstract at this point. Where we will get it en masse is when we get to the detail of, are we ready to move? Are we ready to take the bull by the horns? Because that is the only thing, by the way, tumebakisha. Kitu tumeshamla ng'ombe mzima, amebaki mkia. Huu mkia hautatushinda iwapo tutazamia jambo hili na iwapo tutavalia njuga swala hili la kuhakikisha ya kwamba tunapoenda mbele sasa, hatua hii tunaichukua vipi? Ni nani tunaenda naye? Ni nani tutamhusisha? Na njia yetu itakuwa ni ipi? Tutatumia gari gani? Tutatumia ndege? Tutatumia meli? Tutatembea kwa mguu? Hayo ndiyo masuala ambayo ningependa sasa tuanze kufikiria, tuanze kuyawazia, tuanze kutekeleza. Tusiwe watu wa kupanga, kwa sababu pande ile ingine wanapanga wakitenga, wakiendelea kutuambia jinsi ambavyo hata wanazungumza na watu. Sisi tuonyeshe tofauti kwa njia ambayo tutachukua hatua za kutekeleza matakwa ya Wakenya. Shukran, Mungu awabariki, Mungu aibariki Kenya, na happy Mother's Day to all the women in this space and all the women of Kenya and the world. Mbarikiwe nyote. Shukran zangu za dhati.
Thank you, Dr. Milton. Redemptor, your closing remarks, please. Thank you.
Hey, Dr. Milton, umeniangusha bwana. We have just been told to collaborate. So I am a collaborator of this show, and I really do appreciate your consistency. But just like you, every Wednesday, without fail, even if it's 2 people, I keep the conversations going. When these conversations began, I used to introduce myself to the young people because they were mostly dominating the spaces, and I would say, mimi ni mtetezi, mwandishi na mzazi. And allow me just for a minute, because this is a special day, to talk as a mother. Naongea kama mzazi niseme, on this Mother's Day, sometimes we come to space and we talk about emotions as if it is a bad word. How you came into this world is science, biology. But why is because of emotions. Your mother and your father emotions were involved, unless your birth circumstances were complicated. So let us not demonize emotions. The generations that come here, last Sunday, we hosted the Emeritus Chief Justice on your show, and people kept coming here and starting to argue about, don't mention Gen Z, there's also this. No, Gen Zote belongs to this person. I think we must acknowledge that when a phrase becomes popular like Gen Z, I don't think the intention is to exclude the pain we feel as a nation for those who are active citizens because of pain. There are people who are active citizens because of pleasure. They come here every time to justify the pleasure they are feeling from being in power. And I would say, as a nation, where we have failed is because of a phrase I heard from a young person. He had gone to a prosperity gospel church and he had taken his wife there, was not interested in going to that church, and came home, came to my house for lunch. And I said, how was church? And this young man said, well, it was about show off. And what the pastor said is, I am bowling and you're not. And if you don't understand the sheng, bowling means I'm loaded and you're not. And I think our leaders have been telling us, I am loaded, I am rich, I am filthy rich, and you're not. But my very existence is because you vote. But I'm still going to gloat that I am loaded and you're broke. I am so rich and you're poor. And that is where they failed. The pain that we felt post pre-June 25th, right now it is greater because of emotions, because we can run away from the pain. Those of you who have empathy, the pain that you feel for the mothers who are crying because their children were brutalized. We kept vigil in December, Christmas Day, to demand for the release of abducted young people. And that, I have to remind you, on this Women's Day, will be the undoing of a regime, because they continue to assume people have no emotions, they feel nothing, and we will have a revolution of the ballot. It will happen because the mothers of this nation, everywhere you go, if you talk to a mother, they tell you the pain is unbearable. We can talk shop, talk big words about bills and let's do this, let's collaborate, but we must stop and acknowledge the pain in this nation is inflicted by people who are mandated to protect, not to hurt. So I leave you and congratulate you for keeping talking. Boya, you've made very valid points. I will approach presidential candidates and I will bring them to my show on Wednesday, which is a chilled space. They will be patient there. And the whole purpose of that conversation will be for them to tell us who they are, because people have talked, they want to know the blueprint they have to liberate this country. At the end of the day, I've told young people in this nation, when you hear the voice of the person you support, you will know what their intentions are. And that's why there's a lot of helter-skelter. And to the young people, my last submission is this. There's been a lot of fightings online. That's you live by the sword, you die by the sword, you are formed by social media, you're fighting the social media. But I'll say this, the reason why there seems to be a cancel culture is some of you are becoming to get entitled because of your generation and say, I am the leader of the Gen Z. Nobody selected you to be the Gen Z. So as we get close to June 25th, there's a lot of fear because the ruling class have assumed we forgot and we moved on. And the young people of this nation have a greater responsibility because they will outlive our foolishness. For when we fight about things like phrases, oh, it's not just them, it was us. Kenya, like 1254 says, deserves better. And we live this evening, if it's evening where you are, the time you're at, saying we converge every day because some want to convince others, but some are already convicted that Kenya needs to be liberated. We are in a bad place. But guess what? The resilience of the human spirit, the resilience and determination of a Kenyan spirit keeps us going. So for all those who are doing great things to make this country a better place, we applaud you. And my very, very last thing, this is the role of a midwife. It was not for a midwife, some of us will not be here. And we are lucky, and I know you're going to shy away from this, me saying this. We take for granted the judges of this country. We take for granted the women in leadership. They are midwives, and some might kill the baby, but we have some good midwives. So our Chief Justice is a woman, our Auditor General, woman, Budget Controller, woman, Attorney General, woman, your mothers, and I hope you will deliver to this country good governance and justice. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for Kenya Wazalendo. On this Women's Day, that's why I've made that special. I'm not here to say we need special treatment because we are women, but our nation is in the pulse of what the women feel. And on behalf of mothers of this nation, our young people are suffering. It's time to give them a break and give the odds are stacked up against them. It's time we stop criminalizing them, speaking on behalf of them, infantilizing their conversations. Na wale wako na kiherehere pia mtamenyana wenyewe kwa wenyewe, but at the end of the day, we pay tributes to all the young people, the old people, the children who continue to be brutalized when people are juggling and fighting for power. Power belongs to God. Asanteni.
Thank you, Redemptor. Thank you again for your submission. I think thank you all for staying with us through this urgent and unfiltered dialogue. What we have had today is not just frustration, it is the sound of a nation refusing to be gaslit any longer. I think the IEBC crisis is not isolated. It's a part of larger pattern of calculated disruption where power is hoarded, institutions are captured, citizens are treated as bystanders in their own democracy. But we are not the bystanders. We are the witness, we are the participant, and most importantly, we are the resistance. The Constitution is not a suggestion, it's the heartbeat of our republic. If they try to silence us, we must be louder. If they try to bend it, we must stand firmer. If they try to break it, we must become unbreakable. This space has reminded us of one thing: democracy does not die in one day. It dies in silence, in apathy, in the comforts of waiting for someone else to act for you. To everyone who joined us tonight from Kenya to Zimbabwe and across the continent, the diaspora, thank you. Your voice reminds us that your struggles are connected to our hopes. Our hopes are shared, and our liberation must be collective. So tonight, I challenge all of you not to just to react, but to organize, to educate, to mobilize, because power fear most is what they fear most is when they control. It's not when we are building together. Thank you. Stay sharp, stay bold, stay united, and above all, stay awake. See you next Sunday. Asanteni sana, as we wait confirmation from the Wamunyoro team for the next weekend to speak to Kenyans. Thank you again.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody, every mother, every girl, every lady. And we really appreciate you and we really appreciate your presence. As a Pressure Point team, we want to thank our host today, Abdi Demta, and all those who joined, Dr. Milton, plus other speakers. We want to say that we are here every Sunday, and every Sunday we have to have this conversation. I know today we are reflecting about the state of the nation and the role of IBC in Kenya, and this was a very crucial and a topic today. And as we face the progress and the challenges that we face as a democratic country, however, I want to say that thank you so much for joining, and let us continue with this dialogue. Let us continue through this journey as we uh, need the public engagement, constructive dialogue, and collective responsibility. Let us work together. Let us strengthen our institutions, and let us fostering what matters is that the unity. Let us be united as Kenyans. Let us have this conversation as much as we can, and let us focus as we bring change to our country. What are you doing? What am I doing? Let us keep it alive all the time. Pressure Point is always here. When you have something, let us contact us directly. We can know how to do it. If you think that you have a speaker that you need to come on board, let us know. We will do that and make sure that they are here with us all the time. Let us keep it alive. May God bless you. Have a wonderful night, a wonderful morning, a wonderful day. Until Sunday again at 7 p.m. Kenya time. Bye for now and today.